very happy to have MINNA, GERNOT, and Mr. STREITZ, NORBERT STREITZ, here on the panel for the final remarks. So we will not have a discussion, but I think, yes, I'm happy that you all spent this whole day or afternoon with us. And MINNA, she is the one who she is from MCOLD in Helsinki, and she did a lot of, I would say, a lot of Connecting Cities projects that were very much embedded in the neighborhoods, and is our expert for audience development. And she would like to give a statement to the audience development issues, which we mentioned in all our panels somewhere, and how to reach them through urban context. But I think, yes, we really look forward to hear your statement.
Thank you, SUSA, and hello to everybody who's still there. Nice. Yeah, so I made a comment earlier, and I told that in Helsinki we don't have a regular infrastructure, and I think this was not a bad thing. I think it was really, really good, because what we did was actually we reinvented and we took over locations, various places in various years, and we actually learned so much. And it is the main question that we wanted to address in audience development was really like, how should we present art in public space? Art in public space is the first question, which is a bit demanding. But then if we present media art and perhaps even like interactive things or things that have some technical sophisticated processes going on, then it's even more challenging to present this type of work in public space. You can imagine, media art is usually appreciated by quite expert audiences, and art in general, we can say it's quite an elite thing, especially media art. So it's for the few, usually. So that's why we have a really big interest in how to open these issues and how to make the audiences get it, like, why is this done, why is it important, etc. And it's been mentioned today quite many times, like even in the last panel, some of you said that, looking at these images, where are the people? We have these huge screens, and it's a very infrastructural genre. At least some of the images that are going around, especially in the Google Shots. But it's really, and when we started in Helsinki, the mayor of Helsinki said, because we were working with Helsinki Festival, which is the major cultural festival in Finland, and the mayor of Helsinki said, now this year the festival will be very, very visible because of the media facades. Whereas in fact we were not addressing the masses. We were not trying to build spectacles, which have been discussed earlier today. We were interested not in the quantity, but in the quality of the experience and the agency of the audience. So this was our starting point in thinking about audience development. And we devised a categorization of like audiences, because when we think about public spaces, there's a lot of passers-by kind of people going around. And we wanted to know how we can stop them and make these passers-by into an active audience. An active audience is what we call people who stop and enjoy the art or, view the presentation, but they still keep a distance to the project. So they are appreciating it from a slight distance, like a theater play or an art show. So the next step would be how to turn these active audiences who are already interested in the project, how to encourage them to engage with the work. Celine was saying something about that earlier, that it was really tough to get them really try it if there's some interactive quality in the project. So I would call these interactive or reactive participants. But further on, we still have a fourth category, which is socially engaged participants. And that is the category that we, in the end, worked most with, and we made a lot of projects where the social engagement and the actual production of collaborative production with various communities happened. So the main thing is that it's not really about content production, doing this type of work. It's context production, and to create context where the audiences and the art pieces in public space can meet is really interesting area, and it has a lot of it is social kind of design. But also like site-specific, thinking about the dynamics of the space. This is the kind of work that you cannot do if you just own an infrastructure or if you're just locked within one facade technology, for example. So that is why it was especially fruitful for us. The other thing, and I'm finishing now because time, what we also learned that the city centers, they are not really nice places at all. People are totally different in city centers than in more local neighborhoods, because we were also showing in a very central square in the center of Helsinki, and people are there's so much going on, and they are in the passerby mode. It's really difficult to stop them. And if they stop, then they shrug and go on. And then we produced the projects. One year we just showed in a little bit off-center neighborhood, and the reception was so warm. There was so much love and sort of commitment and interest and discussion, dialogue going on, that it was a big difference. So these two things as a kind of my conclusion to all the various things that we've learned in this network is that if the more you have agency for the audience, the more there is also commitment or ownership of the work, but less people, less masses. And I think this is one of the reasons we have been, and it hasn't been mentioned, can I mention that we also developed a new project? Most of the network members are in it. So some of these issues were part of the new proposal that we developed, that is not connecting cities, but it's connecting neighborhoods, CNN. And we will know next week if we can do it. So probably then, hopefully, we can share those results later on. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And we directly go over to GERNOT TSCHERTEU, who is, initiator of Institute for Media Architecture. And we worked for a long time together, did the Media Facades festivals together. And now GERNOT, he founded also the Media Architecture Biennial, which will take place in Sydney this year, and will give us a short last remark.
Yeah. And, to start with, for me it has been very good years together with you. So we've been working together now, us for already since 2007, but within the Connecting Cities network since 2012, and it was a very important time for me because a lot of things also have developed also on a technological level. Think on smartphones, and all that technological change was also reflected in that large number of artwork that has been developed in this project. And so for me it has been a framework of coping with this change and reflecting this change. Very important years. And and you mentioned the Media Architecture Biennale, so we have been glad that that the network has been contributing so much to the Biennale. We provided the space for the meetings of the network there in 2012, and in 2014 we were already able to show a lot of artwork that has been being produced in the connecting cities around Europe. And yeah, so we always try to bring together city planners in the Biennale, city planners, academics, then also industry. And I think it was very important to have this media art aspect within this discourse. It was really central. And yet, I also want to come back a little bit to the panel before, because I think it was a very interesting panel. And it came also to the same conclusions that I was coming in my work with media architecture, and maybe it was also a development that we undertook in the Connecting Cities network. So in the beginning there was the facade, there was the technology. We were so much impressed by this new technical means, and I think maybe in the beginning we were too much focused on that aspect, and I think more and more we discovered that it's really about the social processes behind. And yeah, I think I'm not anymore impressed by the media architecture, although we do these festivals and make exhibitions around it, but I'm much more impressed now by social processes that are built bottom up, maybe not that visible, and I really think that that we have to encourage this kind of discourse that was also mentioned before, bringing interesting people together with neighborhoods and supporting them with new technologies and even with architecture and other means to develop themselves. So also in my work, for example, I'm not so interested in making media installations and media architecture, so I'm doing a lot of work in housing projects, support co-housing projects, building up social structures so that they can form their own houses. And my experience is that out of a community that is really sustainable, working for several years, there's a lot of progress, ideas, innovation coming out for society.
Yes, thank you very much. So from urban screens to urban interventions. And yes, Norbert Streitz, now it's the final remark. We asked him when he did his, or prepared his keynote speak to, yes, a little bit observe the afternoon and give from a perspective, not as a Connecting Cities partner, but from a, yes, how would I say, someone who is just meeting us for the first time. His observations, so please, we are curious about to hear you.
Okay, yes, SUSA, thank you very much. Yeah, first of all, again, let me thank you that we had the privilege to be here and to see all these fantastic work and impressive efforts in making this happen over several years and culminating in this afternoon presentations. It's very impressive. In terms of comments, I think I observed also in the final comments here and especially in the panel before a shift of intentions, what's happening. And so I think you have to discuss among yourselves what is your new primary intention in a way. So on the one hand, as I was invited and when I saw the first abstracts and information about it, it was presented as a network of artists who are working in the context of cities and making media art and performances and installations, etc. And so I think for most artistic expressions and installations, one key characteristic is that it's temporary, right? So it's for a limited time, And of course, in the museum, you have exhibitions of paintings or sculptures also for a longer time. But especially for these, when they are taking place outdoors, they are more or less temporary. And here there was the demand now in the last panel, for example, to talk about more permanent installations affecting the community over a longer time. So the issue is, and of course there's not white and black or gray is probably the predominant thing. Is this still then an artistic intervention? Because like the word intervention is also, it's at a certain place for a certain time, for a certain period, or is it more long, medium or longer term effort to transform the neighborhood, the community, the city, and so then there is another purpose also in doing this kind of work. And what I'm observing here in the presentations and also in the discussions here is that you are now in this process of transforming your efforts and your goals maybe also from a more artistic intervention into contributions to improving or changing, transforming the city and the urban neighborhood and environment, right? For example, in the last panel we had this presentation of this, where is he? Niels Wouters, with these boxes where you can print messages to the community. This is for me not anymore an artistic intervention, it's more like self-support, community activity or something like that, if I'm not misinterpreting you. And so maybe I would like to throw in a comment which I had also in my keynote, this kind of experience design. And I think you're moving in some aspects more to this designing an experience. But here I have the feeling that one should be a little bit more clearer about the goals then of this kind of design process. I mean, artists usually, they don't have goals. They have a creative effort and they present something and they confront it, and then the beauty is in the eye of the beholder, of the person who interacts with it, etc. But when you're now moving more towards this kind of designing an environment, urban environment, etc., and also an experience, when you go beyond information design, as I propagate, then I think one should be a little bit more clearer about what are the goals for these kind of design processes. And so, of course, a good approach is to go into co-creation and participatory design to involve the citizens, the people who are later on affected. But still, I think there should be some kind of a guiding role of those people who have the initial idea and so forth. And then another comment about, there are these, and now I'm a little bit provocative, our architect said, yeah, there are these big private companies and they have these media facades and they own them and they do whatever they like and they are not available for us anymore, but they should be available to us because they belong to the city, etc. But why should there be an instantaneous change from something which was there before? Because before there was a building, and except for graffiti, you wouldn't ask that you can paint on the wall or on the facade of this building of a private company, right? So it's a little bit of a provocative statement. One, of course, can say, okay, we should engage in a negotiation process. You have these facilities, and maybe there's something which would be also interesting for the whole community, so not just to show advertisement and things like that, to contribute to the neighborhood and to the civic life, etc. I agree with this, but I think there's, from a primary point of view, there's no obligation by these companies if they build something and they did this investment, because you wouldn't write on their facade if it's not a media facade. So Is there a qualitative change now because it's a media facade and not a standard facade? I don't know. I just put this out for discussion. And finally, I would like to say that I think all these efforts are very useful, very worthwhile, because they can change and transform life in the city, in the neighborhoods. And so I just congratulate to all these efforts here. And I wish you that you get additional funding for your next projects and activities. And so it was a lot of fun and good experience also for me to be here. Thank you very much.
Yes, so we are at the end of our symposium and Connecting Cities Lab, and tomorrow we will, yes, think about the future. So thank you very much for your remarks. I think it's very interesting to, yes, also with the inspirational talks what you gave us, to think in this sustainable and maybe not only temporary direction, what you already did with the Flederhaus and for your community building or housing project. And if anyone would like to, yes, how can I say, add something to the future development, so there is also a last remark to the audience. I don't see anything behind me. If not, we wait for Jeremy Bailey, and you are warmly invited to share a drink with us and to have a walk into the neighborhood. Thank you.
So, sorry. I wanted to give the floor to everybody, but if not, there's one thing of what Mr. Streidt says that I profoundly disagree with all respect of your work, because your observations are really interesting within the framework of your research, of course. But I think that I don't feel so comfortable when you say that there's some work to do because, yeah, between artists and engaging in real processes, and the fact that you say that artists usually do not have a goal, I think that's profoundly and historically incorrect. I think you really have to reconsider that, because when artists doesn't have a goal, it means indeed, and it's maybe sign of the times to say that artistic production and cultural production is a kind of a luxury product. But it isn't. It is essential how artists behave in societies from the Middle Ages, Renaissance, whatever. Especially, of course, I'm speaking for my own artistic work as an architect. I think if we have no societal goal, we are bad artists. That's just. I think that I would really invite you to reconsider that opinion, because I think it is profoundly not true.
I think there was a slight misunderstanding. What I meant is that the artist per se, and here, of course, I know there's the issue if some architects consider them as artists and some as more engineering and building something, etc. But I think that artists per se not necessarily have to have a society goal, right? So I think, like Picasso, do you think that when he created his work, that he had the idea of changing the world or to improve society or something like that? He had an inspiration, and of course he is triggered by events and experiences in his environment. And of course then he has a goal in terms of, I want to paint this painting, or I want to compose this kind of music or something like that. Of course, these are goals in terms of that they want to do something. It's goal-directed behavior as a human behavior. Yes, it's not random activity, right? Except maybe sometimes sprinkling dots of paints on a bed sheet or something like that. But I think in general, the goal is not necessarily always, except more for political activism, artists or so, to change society all of a sudden, right?
Thank you. I think this is the perfect end and the perfect start for smaller discussions and smaller groups. So at this point, I would like to thank you very much. I would like to thank you for following up this really intense afternoon. And now you're freely invited for some drinks and also to continue this very interesting discussion. Thank you very much.